Hey, what's up, friends? Welcome back to the channel. I am Dale, and we are going to do a quick and gritty, let's just get straight into it, tarot reading for whatever purposes are necessary, okay? We're just going to get into it, starting off with the Botticelli Tarot from Lo Scarabeo, I think is what it's called. And it's beautiful, and it has very different meanings. You know what I'm going to do in this one? I don't normally flip my cards upside down, but I'm going to do that this time. I mean, I'm going to allow for reversals in this deck is what I'm getting at. Okay. So if you want to see, you can turn it down some so you can see. Let me not push everything over. All right. Botticelli Tarot. Okay. Okay. There it is. All right. So I already flipped it a couple of times, but let's do another shuffle. What do we got here? The King of Swords. You got something to say today? Maybe something powerful to say? I think so. I think it feels good to you today. Like perhaps you haven't felt empowered in your truth in a long time, and that's where we're getting at today. So come on, let's get some cards and movement out here. All right. We have the Eight of Swords in the upright. So that's very interesting because this is all about like being stuck in a mental prison where you feel like you can't talk about things. So what's our opposition here? I feel like we're having two different stories playing out. We've got these are in reverse. So what do we got? Oh, two fours. We got the Four of Cups and the Four of Wands. All right, but they are in reverse. And so the Four of Cups usually has to do with like dissatisfaction of like you know, what's being provided to you emotionally. Um but the Four of Wands has to do with like establishing a home and a marriage and stability and security. So there's something going on here of like where this isn't being established, and yet there's some. Let me look at this. Let me look at this. She's like calling for another cup. So what I think it is because a four and a four. I think that in the past there was like I don't even want because they were in the upside down. It's like I'm not trying to call in another lover. I'm not trying to call in any more like security and stability because people have been so destructive in my past. But let's see what's going on over on this side. This is like the past and this is like the future. There's a Two of Pentacles, but it really looks like a Three of Pentacles card because of like in my opinion, okay? Two of Pentacles is usually like juggling and stuff, like traditionally. It's like juggling, trying to keep all your plates spinning to make sure that everything can work together. And but that's not what this is about. This is like Two of Pentacles in the upright, and then you've got the Eight of Pentacles in the reverse. And so what that shows me is that like in the past you weren't trying to build with people. Now there's like all these people coming together to kind of play it together. It's like there's no more juggling. It's like it's almost like you're playing, I don't know, like volleyball together or something. Instead of it being juggling, it's like this volley back and forth with you and some other energy that's going on. And you're not having to work hard to do this. It seems like it's very it seems like a relief. It seems like a relief because what's going on? Oh, we got another eight. Okay. So whereas this was coming up at the bottom, we had seen the King of Swords. The King of Swords has no problem like speaking his word and stuff like that. But the Eight of Swords is like being in a mental prison where you feel like you can't break out. You can't. So we've got the two fours here. We got a two and an eight, and we've got a eight and an eight, right? So there's something going on about these like eights, you know, and like multiples of eight or, division of eight. I don't know. But what's going on here with the Eight of Wands is that there is a message coming in from like it actually I'm glad I looked at this card because I was like, why are you in your own mental prison? It's because you had to be in the right place in order to get shot by Cupid's arrow. And that's what's going on, is that that's what this situation is here, is that you're being brought together. It really just feels like a lover because this feels like the breakdown of a lover. Okay. So that is cool. I hope you're feeling that because it seems like we've been waiting a long time. And like if you have been craving partnership, you've been getting partnership in deceptive ways, right? Where you're like, this is not really what I wanted. It's only like part of what I wanted. Why are these people like lying to me? we got the high priestess on the bottom of the deck here. And I shuffle this up and put it back in the box without knowing what's at the bottom. What do we got here? The 8 of coins. So we got another 8 and a 9 of wands. All right. So high priestess with the 8 of coins and the 9 of wands means that you have had this inner knowing that you have had to just keep working hard through the like carrying of other people's burdens, or like carrying all this creativity within your own mind and moving like slowly because you feel like you can't be empowered by your own world because you're having to be empowered in somebody else's world still. And that's just kind of like the world of the patriarchy of like where you got to dedicate your 40 hours to something greater than you, and yet you don't get all the it's like you need to think about it. When you're dedicating 40 hours, what does that actually mean to you? We got a 10 of swords and a 9 of cups. And this means that this is what is ending this concept of like the 40-hour work week, where it's actually so much more. If you live like a half hour from work, first of all, you're adding in an hour extra of your time to your drive. Okay. So then you got to factor in gas. Then you have to factor in all the things like what is your wardrobe for work? And when you actually factor in all that stuff, you need to reconfigure how much you're making. If you have like a big dollar sign on your salary and you think like, I'm making a lot of money, like, okay, well, how happy are you? And how many hours are you truly putting in? Because that is really what matters most. You might as well go and work part time at Burger King if it's going to make it so you're not like imbibing in all kinds of addictions that cost money because you hate your job and you hate your life, right? So you need to reconfigure your finances into a realistic version based on what fills your cup. And you got the 9 of cups here, you got the 8 of cups here, and this is usually emotionally walking away from something. But that's the thing is like you have the 9 of cups because in the past you emotionally walked away from something, and it was like, oh my goodness, what is all this big energy? The King of Coins, the Emperor, the Tower, the Knight of Wands. There's just the Fool. There's a lot of energy going on of why you had to walk away, because people who seemed like they were powerful, they weren't. They weren't. They were like telling you something of what they imagine themselves to be, but it's been cut out of your life. This is like what happened between the past and the future again, or the past and the present. So let's see what's going on here. Knave of Wands, King of Wands, King of Cups. This was the past. Let's see what's going on this side. 8 of coins and Ace of swords. Okay. Okay. So the Knave of Wands is a fiery, it's sort of like out of control, childish type of energy who was like saying, oh man, he was like saying that like we can create anything because I am this like ultimate creator and I've been so great previously in life. And he's like, and look at me, I love so much and I care so much, right? It's like these were false things, because in actuality this just was like this. It was like a kid who was like on fire about who they think they are and what they think that they're capable of, because sometimes when people are young, I've noticed this with like boys, like if they don't really have to try hard because they're just good at something, people will elevate them, especially like athletes and stuff, like natural athletes. They will get elevated by like their community and their family and their friends, and everybody turns them into the cool kid. And so they really think that that's who they are. They're coming from this like passionate space of being, when they were younger, they're like, I got everything that I wanted. So like I totally have power to make a lot of money and I have like emotional stability, when really it's like this illusion. They are not able, they haven't grown up into it yet. And you had seen this by what was showing up previously in the other deck. And it's like, okay, well, so you learned how to cut that shit out and not listen to that. And then it was like it gave you time because you had to walk away from this concept of like, dude, they are not emotionally. This is not what you are. This is not what you are. As a matter of fact, you drank from all of my cups. Now I got to freaking walk away because you lied about who you were. Right. And so then it's like, oh, I put these in the wrong area. But that is what brought you into this fulfillment. And it's because you were steadily working on this thing that was an idea from God. You're like, God, every time I followed your way, it's like I feel this inside, but it never comes to me. But I've been steadily working on this thing. And it's like, God is like, yeah, because I put people in your life to see if you could enhance your personal boundaries and see the truth of what their actions were versus what their words were. And you finally did, and you put this in. And now you got this, like you got this stuff, like with the where you're I brought you into your equal. I brought you there. All right, so let's see what this oracle card has. Let's see, maybe it'll be one, maybe it'll be a couple, but this is Earth and Bone Oracle, and it's so beautiful and it's so serene. And let's just see what it comes out at the bottom. All right, we've got this shadow. We've got this shadow. And that's what that person was hiding in, is like, and they were keeping you in your own shadow because they're trying to make you feel like you're not legit, you're not who you are. But what they did was like they forced you into this real frustrating part of like, you're like, listen, I know who I am. You can't just tell me that I'm not who I am. And so you would go to battle with your shadow very often with this person because other people in your life, they just like they acknowledged you for who you were, and they weren't afraid to give you praise for who you are. But this other person, it was like they were empowered as a youngster just naturally in who they were. So they never really developed the ability. I'm just folding these up to put them away. They never really developed the ability to like work on anything, like actually have to put the work into anything. Oh my goodness. Really honestly don't need to be doing this right now. I'm just trying to clean up the space and get it ready for the next thing, and because I need to go and clean out my garage. And so I'm just trying to get everything back in order because that's how I like to do things. All right, put that away. You might have seen it on camera, but I can't see it. And back to bed. All right. So anyway, yeah, when one person gets in their shadows, the other person gets in their shadows equally. All right. So, and that might have started at 37 because I know it did for me um, when I got involved in a situation like that. So, or, 37 adds up to be 10 in numerology. And that's significant. That's significant of an ending and beginning of a cycle. Okay. And that was real, and it's like so much easier when the cycles begin and end like in the same day. And because we have just a better, I don't know, grasp on it. The rider, the rider and the burrow. All right. So there's something about like moving and being protected because maybe you're afraid of a rider coming to find you. What's going on? The beast, pack, and stoicism. This is so interesting because it's like the burrow is like hiding by yourself. And that's what it seems like stoicism is. And it's because of this beast. But the pack, it's almost like you're burrowing down to hide from the pack, right? But there is like, I think, I think what's going on here is that you were burrowing down to hide from a beast. But what it did for you was that it hid you from the pack of like what the rest of the world is going through. And you took on this like hermit type advice. Okay. This stoicism, it's like keeping your cool and being able to look at things from an objective perspective. All right. Because the subjective perspective will make you okay. And here's like the cage. Interesting. The cage showed up, but light showed up right after it. And so like the feeling of this burrow is like the cage. Okay. It's like where you're hiding underground. And so, whether it's the pack or just one beast that you are hiding from, you don't really know. But your space below the surface or in that cage gives you a space of observation. Now, unfortunately, you feel like you're caged. That's the subjective concept of it, is that you feel caged. And that was this here, too. This Eight of Swords card. It's like you feel caged, but really you were in the right place for this to happen, to like get your messages from God that you were supposed to like learn from the past situation of like the pack and the beast and all this stuff, but you had to process it in this space of like hermit mode stoicism so that you understood what to do when all of that stuff passed by and you were ready for flight, because it's another 10, right? 2 plus 8 is 10. And so that means that you are moving forward because you learned not to be scared anymore. That's the thing. When you stay in a cage, there's a little bit of protection, ultimately there's as much protection as there is removal of your freedoms. Okay. So that's kind of like when I was in the army, I'm like, I'm giving up my freedoms, but also I'm a part of like the safe side of the war machine. Now, this is going to sound a little bit weird, but the way that I saw it was like, if we're going to be at war, okay, this was back in like the early 2000s. If we're going to be at war, am I better off to get trained in war and be on the front lines of it, or at least be volunteering for the front lines of it? Or am I better off to sit here with my yellow ribbon saying to support the troops and listening to whatever the news channels were telling everybody, it's like, that's the way that I saw it. And so I'm like, no, I'm going to do this with eyes wide open. And I want to see what actually goes on in war. I want to see what actually goes on in government spending. I want to be there with my brothers and sisters who are volunteering their lives to go over and try to make lives better for people who were not from our land. We don't really know what they needed from us. We don't really know. Okay. But we thought we were doing the right thing. Now, that remains to be determined, I guess, by the liver of life. You are the liver of your own life. Like, the only way that you can know if you did the right thing is, how do you feel about it in the end? Do you feel like you had your heart on God? Do you feel like you sat in the cages um, that He put you in? He's like, He put you in time out so that you would be forced to look and listen and feel and get to know what types of different personalities there are out in this world, and like how people can be deceptive, because He gave you that time in what seemed like a caged lack of freedom, so you could gain an objective oversight and compare it to your subjective life and experience, so that once you were released from that cage, now it's on you. You know how people sometimes get scared of other people getting like famous or becoming political leaders because they're scared that their ego is going to take over and they're going to be taken over by the system? Well, that is what happens when you wait for the proper time for your leadership to arise. Like, if you're just somebody who wants to be on a stage or like making big decisions just because that's like what your ego wants, you're probably not in the right growth phase for it. Okay, you need to be a stoic about it. You need to take the time for maturity to make sure that like actions are aligning with words. And really, in the reading that we had today, it was sort of this like brutal honesty about the heart space, like relationships. Okay, because when we think about love and relationships, we're thinking about it from a soft heart space of like what we desire and what we feel like we're kind of like lacking. And we want that in the softness of a partner and in the support of a partner. But you have to realize that partnership can be cruel and unusual punishment if you don't honor yourself and your own personal boundaries, and you don't vibe with it through the guidance of God, because God is going to put feelings into your heart to say, like, do you think this is how I would make you feel if I was trying to show you my love through a partner that I placed in your life? Do you think that I would want you to feel pain, or to feel neglected, or to feel abandoned, or to feel like you're being belittled by your partner? It's like, no, absolutely not. But I will definitely put that in your life to make sure that you choose the proper partnership that I want for you, because I raise up every child. I put every seed, every soul into the body that exists here, because I have a purpose for people. And if you want to fight against what I have for you, it's just not going to be the best. It's just not going to be the best. You're going to live in pain and imprisonment that you kept yourself in, not me, not me. All right. So I'm out. I love you. Have a great day. Bye.